Production units of the Canon EOS R1 have begun shipping in some regions. Will yours start shipping soon? Well, that depends. I've got the details coming up along with 2 camera registrations. But first, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, helps this channel grow, and keeps you up to date on the latest camera coverage. A source who's been reliable in the past told me that production Canon R1s have shipped in the United States. But before you go ahead and get excited, I'm told that they're shipping to professional photographers. So if you're not a pro or at least a very popular photographer, you're going to have to wait 3 weeks just like the rest of us. And according to retailers in Canada, that will be November the 15th. And in the United States, 1 day earlier on November the 14th. So if you pre-ordered your Canon EOS R1 on July the 17th, there's a pretty good chance you could have your camera very soon, and at the very latest, 3 weeks. But if you didn't order on July the 17th, or you ordered late in the day, well, you could be facing a rather long wait, as the R1 has already been on Canon's apologies for not shipping page for the past 2 months. So you might be wondering, why on earth are we waiting so long for the Canon EOS R1? The R5 Mark II started shipping in August the 20th, 2 months ago. Well, another source told me that the late delivery is due to numerous issues with the R1 development that held back the announcement, which was initially planned for the first half of 2024. This would explain why both Canon rumors and ourselves said that the Canon EOS R1 and R5 Mark II were to be announced around CP Plus in February of this year. And it turned out not to be true. And then, of course, Canon rumors came out saying, hey, it's going to happen in May. And we had some sources also coming out a little bit after Canon rumors saying, yep, May looks good, something big is brewing. And nothing. Well, all we got was a development announcement for the R1. And then we had to wait until July the 17th, where we got the announcement of the R5 Mark II as well as the R1. The R5 Mark II didn't start shipping until August the 20th. And the R1, well, here we are. It hasn't shipped yet, but supposedly is shipping in the United States. And speaking of 2024 launch dates, Canon rumors had this to say. Let's be honest, our record of launch dates over the last year has been spotty at best, though the products coming have been pretty accurate, even if some of them were obvious. But I think Canon rumors is being a little bit hard on themselves. I've been covering camera rumors and news for the past 5 years, going on 6 years now, and it's been a lot of fun. But let me take you behind the curtain a little bit and explain a few things. If we're getting information from a highly accurate and reliable source about a year ahead of time, well, that information might be correct, but it could change the roadmap, or there's something in production or development that causes things to, well, change. And we've seen that many times. But as we get closer to the announcement, that information firms up, and it's unlikely for a camera company to change the information. And what you might have noticed with this channel is when I report information about a day or two before the announcement, what usually happens? Well, that information is bang on correct. The pricing, the specifications, all looking good. Again, all this coming from the same source, and that's, I think, what we saw happen this year. We've seen this with Sony, Panasonic, and Canon. Everybody seems to be suffering from either a development issues or parts shortages. And a lot of cameras are getting pushed off into 2025. Which leads me to talk to you a little bit about the R6 Mark III and the RF 200-800mm. Now, I had a source come out and tell me that the RF 200-800mm isn't coming out until 2025, the first quarter of 2025. And of course, the R6 Mark III, well, Canon rumors came out with that first. And then, of course, we had confirmation from some of our sources. But with something like this, without any, how shall we say, other information, because we're seeing some contradicting information, I would consider the R6 Mark III and the RF 200-500mm a bit fluid at this point. We don't know the exact date and time. It's currently planned for Q1 of 2025, but it doesn't stop Canon from saying, okay, you know what, we're going to pull things back. We're going to do something in November. And the reason I say that is just look at the Canon EOS R1. Initially, it was planned to start shipping on November the 26th in the United States and Canada. And then earlier this week, actually it was early last week, that all changed, and now it's November the 15th in Canada and November the 14th in the United States. So just because we come up with something from a highly reliable and credible source, things can change. So when I saw that on Canon Rumors website today, I thought, you know, that's one of the things I've always liked about them is their honesty, but not to be too hard on themselves. It's been frustrating for them. I know that because it's been frustrating for me too, saying, hey, we got a CP Plus announcement coming, and now it looks like it's May, and we're going to have both cameras announced, and no, trust us, it's now going to be July the 17th. And when I came out with that date of July the 17th, I beat everybody else by about a week or two. Even though the source was a highly reliable and trusted source, I had been burned a couple of times already this year, thinking that maybe, just maybe, the date changes again, but it didn't. And it's when you get things right like that, that it makes it all worthwhile. But the Canon EOS R1 wasn't going to be the focus of this story, at least until late yesterday. It was going to be about the R6 Mark III and the new report on the RF 200 to 500mm being delayed until Q1 of 2025. I thought, great, another source validating the information that I put out a few days ago, until I read a little bit further and realized they were citing me. Now, in a way, it put a smile on my face that somebody else is citing me and recognizing what I'm putting out there. But at the other point, I was thinking like, oh, wow, I've got a big story to put out there. And it turned out not to be the case. Another case of where things can be rather fluid. But thankfully, I did have something from one of my sources waiting for me when I got home, and that kind of changed where I was planning on doing things. But again, as Canon Rumors said, they were first to come out with information on the R6 Mark III. And then E8M8888 came out with information that's rather similar. And I put out a story on that about a couple of weeks ago now? Maybe it was a month ago, but the R6 Mark III definitely looks like it's going to be around 24 megapixels. But in terms of getting the Digic accelerator, well, one says yes, one says no. So we'll just have to wait and see. But that should start to firm up as we get closer to an announcement. So if you're interested in all things Canon, well, you can't go wrong by following both Canon Rumors and myself. We have different stories, different viewpoints on the same view. But now let's go on to our last and final story about a couple of camera registrations. Nikon registered a new camera N2323 just a couple of days ago on October the 21st, 2024. And it's most likely either a Z50 successor or a P1000 successor. Sadly, it's not going to be a refresh of the Nikon Z9 Mark II. It's a little bit early for that. And apparently, it's also a little bit early for the Nikon Z7 Mark III. It's a little bit MIA, isn't it? I mean, usually when Nikon releases the Z6, the Z7 follows. The Z6 Mark II, the Z7 Mark II. Where on earth is the Z7 Mark III? Anyhows, that's not the only camera registration. We also have a camera registration from Panasonic, and also on the same day. P2402, could it potentially be the S1, the S1R, or the S1H successor? I mean, it's been 6 years since Panasonic announced the S1 and the S1R, making them long overdue. If you've heard anything, please drop me a message on Facebook or DM me on X. A couple of years ago, before we had endless part shortages and excuses for not shipping products on time or announcing them, a camera registration usually meant that a camera would be announced within 1 to 3 months of the registration and then shipped shortly thereafter. Well, that isn't always the case anymore. The Canon EOS R5 Mark II, well, it took about 6 months, and the R1 going on about 9 months. Oh boy, folks. Really crazy. So as far as either of these two cameras, we could get an announcement sometime in November. I'm thinking mid to late November. And if that doesn't happen, we're likely not to get a December announcement. We'll probably have to wait to early Q1 of 2025. But let's not suffer the FOMO, the fear of missing out. There are some incredible deals on right now, and a few deals on Panasonic as well as Canon and Nikon. The Panasonic S5 IIX is $200 off, as is the G9 II. The R5 is $28.99, the R6 Mark II $19.99, and the low-end R100 kit is sub $500. And over at Nikon, the Z8 is $37.96, the Z6 Mark II $15.96, And that's just a start. I have about 30 other links in the description down below of cameras that are on sale, from the high end like the R3, the 1DX Mark III, all the way down to the R100, the R50, and of course over at Nikon we have the Z50, the Z30, the Z5, almost everything's on sale. Panasonic's got a few sales on, and even Sony has a few sales. So if you're interested in picking up any of these deals, please consider using my affiliate links down below. It really does help this channel grow. It keeps the lights on. It's viewers like you that support this channel. You don't have to pay anything extra. You don't have to fill out any codes, go through any hoops of going through different links. The links down below will take you directly to Adorama, B&H, or Amazon.com. I do get a small commission back. To be totally transparent, it's usually somewhere between 2 to 5% should you purchase something. And again, it doesn't affect your price. You get a great new camera or lens at a discounted price, and you get to support this channel without paying anything out of pocket. The best of both worlds, isn't it? And a big thanks to all of you that have used my affiliate links in the past, especially pre-ordering the R5 Mark II, the R1. But don't forget, on October the 30th, Canon is announcing 3 new lenses. This is what they've said themselves through a tweet from Canon USA. Doesn't mean to say we might not get a few other lenses. Canon rumors are saying we are getting more lenses. It might be at a different event in November. And then, of course, things will really start to kick off in Q1 of 2025. But who knows? November could end up being very hot indeed. We could, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of cameras that are due out. And November, well, we've seen Canon and Sony announce in November, and even Panasonic has teased us in November in the past. So we'll just have to wait and see. But thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great day, a great week, and we'll see you again soon. And by the way, that October the 30th event, we'll be covering it live. I just have to wait and see what the time of that announcement's going to be. Once I know the announcement, I'll schedule an event, and I'll have my expert panel where we'll talk about the lenses. So some pretty exciting stuff. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you again soon.